covered in ashes when they left me bleeding. As rise of the phoenix, forever succeeding. I'm keeping on grinding, my energy's rising. Transitional crashes no longer surprising. I gave it to source, the old me is dead. Destroying all curses, I live by the bread. I'm holding my head up, I'm standing my ground. The empress arrived, the loss has been found.
Gang, what it do? It's your girl, Empress Pre, busting at you on the mic, sending you love and light wherever you are in the sector of your universe. Welcome y'all to another episode of Let's Talk Baby. Today we have Coach Kyle in the house. I'm gonna do my own sound effects. I'm gonna step up, let y'all get introduced and warm up to Coach Kyle. Go ahead and introduce yourself and let the audience know what you do.
Oh man, the coach takes on a lot of different. I wear a lot of different hats. Coach Reese, Denver native, Thomas Jefferson High School graduate. I won't tell you when that was. That was a while back. But now I'm the program director at Athletics and Beyond.
Okay.
And basically we try to help young people find opportunity through exposure. Mm-hmm. And it's sports based because that's where a lot of our kids are at. Mm-hmm. While at the same time trying to impress upon young people that they can do more than dribble, catch, run, shoot, dance, sing. The nonprofit part, that's my day job. That's what pays the bills. I have to say thank you to Narcy Jackson for providing that opportunity for me to serve others, but also it's my full-time job. Mm-hmm. So it's been a blessing to me for sure. I've done some radio in the past, and I kind of moonlight as a sports radio host, fill-in on a sports station here in town. And for now, that's enough.
Can you shout it out?
I don't know if I can shout it out.
Okay.
It won't be hard to find if you care enough to find it.
Okay, there we go.
But yeah, so in the past, I've coached 15 years of high school football, and so this fall will be the first time in a long time that I have not coached football. And so I'm just gonna take some time and spend it with my own kids. I have a 6-year-old son and 3-year-old daughter, and I've been married for going on 8 years at the end of this month. So
congratulations.
So there's I'm not short on things to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? So but that's going to be a new horizon for me, but I'm looking forward to it. At the end of the year, we're going to do our second, now it'll be annual, comes the second time around, Athlete of the Year award. That'll be in December, where we honor a young woman and a young man that are not only good athletes but are really good students and community members. So that's coming up. We do host boxing events at our center as well. Those go over really well. So yeah, I mean, it's a community center without the red tape. Right. We're not going to charge you an arm and leg to come rent the space. We're not going to ask for a blood sample or your firstborn. We try to remove the barriers that keep us from being able to engage with each other. I was having Ozell around. We laugh because we both know Ozell, right? He got wild energy.
Yeah.
But that's what makes him good at what he does. Mm-hmm. Ozell thinks I hate him, honestly. And I don't. You know what I mean? I'm just a busy person, and sometimes I'm short. I'm like, okay, Ozell, what do you need for me to do for you, right? And we always wind up working things out. But honestly, he's been a blessing, right? Because when he comes through, it's not just to come extract from the center, right? He comes to add to the center. Mm-hmm. So the other night we had family game night on Friday. He just comes and participates in the game night, right? And then he brings his people along with him. And that's what we need out of the people that we engage with. We've tried to create an environment, Ozell's not the only one, where our trainers can have their own economy. You can bring your clients in, you can work out here. Obviously there needs to be some benefit and investment in the center, but you can also work out of here and run your business. Ozell does a great job of that. And then again, supporting the things that help us grow. And he's always in tune with how can we help benefit the center. So, I give him a hard time. I think he gives me a hard time sometimes, but it's all love.
Right.
He's helped us fulfill something that was kind of near and dear to our heart in terms of providing more services for young women. Right, and bringing in tumbling, and that's just a space I don't know anything about, right? So, if I was going to start a tumbling crew, I wouldn't know where to start. I wouldn't know how to keep them around. I wouldn't know any of those things, right? He fills that void for us, And so, we'll be doing more of that and continuing to fill those voids. I would love to have softball. I would love to have volleyball. I would love to have more sports-specific and soccer things for young women. And hopefully those things will come over the next 18 months. So I would say stay tuned,
okay.
And I got you.
What advice would you give to our youth out there
that's
looking for guidance and direction?
First of all, there's always hope. And I think that the lack of hope is what leads young people to do some of the things that they do, whether it's drugs, whether it's violence, and all the other things that could lead to making your life more difficult or other people's life more difficult. So that there's hope, and exhaust all your resources. It's not always easy. I've been there. My dad died when I was 15. Right? I didn't have that resource. My mother and I didn't always get along. Right? But I had a football coach. Right? And my mom was a great mom, but there's certain things I couldn't talk to my mama about. Right? I had a football coach that cared about me, and that kind of helped guide some things as well. And then when I got to college, I had a good friend that's still my best friend and best man in my wedding. He taught me so much, right, about work ethic and engaging your family and raising your kids and all that stuff. So I would say, again, there's always hope. Exhaust all your resources, because somebody does care, right? Now, you might have to seek that person out, but don't be afraid to. And, we deal with some young people that they compartmentalize, lock stuff in, and then the bitterness manifests itself in some wild ways, So again, there's a resource out there, and if I'll be it, right? And if I can't help you solve your problem, I'll point you to somebody that can. And so, that's really what it's about. I always tell people, it's about sports for me, right? Because, I love competition, and football has done so many things for me. But at the same time, if I could guarantee that another black child never committed a violent act against another black child, that's what the mission is, right? And if I had to sacrifice, a portion of my well-being in order to ensure that, sign me up. So that's really the mission. I know it's big, but, we really want to impact our community. I'm sorry, I'm going to go long on this one.
No, you're fine. Please.
Because here's the thing, right? In sports, we always say, well, basketball is your way out. Football is your ticket out. You can get out of here. You can go see the world. My question to you, Empress, would be, why do we live in communities that we need to escape from in the first place?
Facts.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why do you don't ever hear, and listen, I'll just say it straight up. You don't ever hear people from Castle Rock saying, I got to get out of here. You don't ever hear people from Highlands Ranch or Parker or Littleton, this is your ticket out of here. In fact, they go off to college, come back, start businesses in the community that they lived in, right, that they grew up in, or somehow invest in that way. So why do we live in a community that we need to escape from? And so I figure the best way to, to help resolve that issue in a small way would be we need to value ourselves where we are at.
Right.
And so that's a huge part of what we do, is that these resources are right around the corner from where you live. You don't have to go 20 miles away from where you live in order to train, in order to find competent trainers, in order to have somebody in your life that cares about you, or to find mental health resources. These resources are right here, right? And so what happens when you go 10 miles away is that you take your time, you take your talent, you take your treasure, right? And that never comes back. It never comes back to where you live, right? And then you come back home and you look around and it's like, well, what does this community have to offer me? And that sucks, but we live in that circumstance all over the country.
So how do you...
No, I gave you a lot. My bad.
No, you're fine.
My bad.
With that, because there is truth in our youth, we gotta escape to get out of here. Not only just in sports, but in entertainment and music and everything. It's just escape to get out of the hood because I don't want to be there anymore. So how do you think that we can come together in our community so we can say we're not going to be in this controlled atmosphere anymore, but bring it back to the point to where you love to be a part of your community? Because I was grandmother raised. I'm sorry. So my grandmother told us about communities and how the neighbors were. I remember growing up with neighbors. We couldn't go around the corner without grandma knowing about it, you know, and I don't see that anymore. How do you think we can bring that back?
I don't have the solution to that problem, and I wish I did. You know, I can tell you about the principles that you and I grew up on, and yeah, it was knowing your neighbor's name, and yeah, your neighbor being able to hold you accountable. And maybe that's the road that we go down, honestly, because there's a different level of accountability. I deal with a lot of young people, and we have to explain why a lot more than we were explained to, right? And we live in a generation, frankly, where if you're messing up in school, the parents go up to the school and correct the teacher, right? That didn't happen when I was a kid.
Right.
I got corrected first.
Yeah.
Right?
No doubt.
And I don't remember many instances where the teacher actually needed correction, right? Because you're the one acting up in class. You're the one mouthing off. You were the one that was late, right? You're the one that didn't turn in the homework, right? And so, you know, now we get a lot of excuse making from our parents, right? And it's enabling. And that's something that I know for a fact never would happen in 1988 when I was a kid, you know. So there's a heightened level of accountability there. The other thing for me is just, you know, a little bit more pride, right? My grandparents bought their house in 1950. My grandpa mowed his lawn every day, you know what I mean, and took care of his house and trimmed his hedges, because that was something a black man wasn't supposed to attain, right? And then be able to raise your family in that house, right? I just don't think we have the same level of pride and ownership. So, you know, those are, you know, I'm just spitballing, but those are a couple ways.
So, do you believe, like, through sports, this is how it's kind of connecting that to the youth as well? That sense of pride, when they're not told at home, sometimes that, okay, I'm proud of you, and then they're on the field or on the court somewhere, you know what I mean, and they hear it from coach or team, or the cheers from the crowd. Do you think that helps to develop that sense of pride within them?
It helps to develop a sense of pride. I don't know if it's, you know, a communal one, right? Because that's an individual accomplishment. And then what happens to the kids that don't do as well? Right, you know, they in the back of the class, and then they become class clowns, and they become truant, and then they become, you know what I mean, all the things that come along with that. What happens to the kids that aren't athletically inclined, right? What happens to our gamers? Right. What happens to our kids that, you know, might be a scientist one day, right? But they don't have that exposure, or they weren't celebrated in the same way, right?
So do you think that we should have more of these activities in the communities? Because sports, they're known in our communities, of course.
Sure.
They can always go to. So do you think that there should be more of an outlet out there?
Absolutely. And it has to be intentional, though, right? And honestly, it's got to come from the parents, right? You got to take the kid to the chess club, your kid to the chess club. You're the one that has to get them in STEM programs. If you don't like what the schools are teaching them, you're the one that needs to teach them. You understand what I'm saying?
I do. So for you as a coach that cares about the kids that you do coach, how do you set that boundary when you do see, if you ever have seen a kid that you're just like, okay, this is not so much attention at home? Where do you draw that line? Have you had to sit down and speak with parents about certain situations? Yeah,
I mean, I try to, I'm a little different from a lot of coaches in that I'll talk to parents and don't mind, you know. For a lot of coaches, they'll come in and say, we're going to have a beginning of the year meeting. This is the last time I'm going to talk to you. Don't call me about playing time. Don't call me about, you know, whatever else the case may be. But I actually welcome it. And there are some instances where I've had to say, don't talk to me about playing time when such and such got 2 Fs. You know? That doesn't always go over well.
Right.
But it's the truth, you know. So yeah, you know, there's some hard conversations, and I can't say, you know, that I'm incredibly encouraged from the outcomes, because, you know, I've had mixed results from having those conversations. But I think we just, you know, we eliminate some of the unknowns when we're honest with each other about those things. And you know, and I really, you know, in my past coaching experience, if I tried to hammer home academics, fatherhood especially, and with mixed results. You know what I found when I started coaching, my high school coach told me, he said, you know, there's going to be some kids that don't get it. You know, you can't save everybody. And unfortunately, there's some kids, you could have 30 kids in the same room, 28 of them will get it, and 2 of them won't. That doesn't mean you weren't effective in delivering your message.
Right.
You know?
Right.
You know, I don't mean to. I see your face, and I know there's some. You know, because these are some sad stories, right? You know, I could tell you, but that's the truth of the matter.
Now, you said you've been coaching for how many years now?
15.
15
High
years.
school football.
High school football. Have you seen? Okay, because this generation, a lot of kids that are coming up. Yes,
yeah.
Sorry. A lot of kids that are coming up are stuck to their phones or gaming or whatever.
Yeah.
And do you think it's hard to draw them out of the house nowadays?
Because of their phones or because of technology?
Because of, even though technology is a blessing, it's kind of, you know, how it's used, it's kind of a curse because now they're glued. We used to have to go outside.
Yeah, sure. I don't know if it's because of the technology. I think it's because of laziness, right? But yeah, you know, there's some constants. I'll just use football. There's some constants in winning programs. It's competition, it's attendance, it's players that hold each other accountable. And you know, when you don't have success, usually those things are absent. So yeah, it is difficult. I've heard some great excuses. I had a kid tell me one time he couldn't come to practice because he had to pick out his homecoming outfit. I said, "Oh, bro, you should have lied to me. You should have come up with something better than that." But you know what? They don't hesitate because they don't see that as a problem. You know, so I think, you know, a renewed commitment to whatever it is that you decide to do, and then that has to be enforced somehow. Well, I always go back to the parents. You know, if it's 4:30 and you know your son's on the football team and he's not at practice, that's a problem. And you need to partner with your football coach or teachers or whoever else to make sure we get these things corrected and hold them accountable for that. So, you know, I don't think it's about the technology because we had video games. I had video games since I was like 8 years old or something like that. But I just think it's a different level of excuse making and lack of accountability.
With people who want to have their children involved in football, per se, right now, and they're worried about the safety of it because there's been a lot of reports coming out that saying concussions, and even though we know that is a risk on it, how do you ease parents' minds with that?
Yeah, here's the thing, like, there's not a parent that is not concerned about that. And so here's what I say. I'm not going to try to encourage you or persuade you one way or the other, right? You make your own decision, right? Understand the risk. We've all seen the TV shows. We all saw Damar Hamlin go down on national television. You know, it's a violent sport, and no matter how much they try to legislate the violence out of it and make the rules safer, it's just a high impact sport, and the guys are only getting bigger, faster, and stronger. So, you know, if there's a concern on your side and you're on the fence about it, here's what I encourage you to do. Do your homework on your coaches, right? Are they guys that are going to emphasize proper technique? Have they been taught proper technique? Have they taken the concussion protocol that all high school coaches have to take every year? Have they taken the mental health and student well-being test every year? Have they invested the time in making sure they can be at their best should an emergency occur and potentially save the life of a child, right? Are they CPR first aid certified? You know, these are small things. All high school coaches have to go through them, but not all coaches, right? And so do your homework on your coaches. How much are they invested in that? How much do they emphasize it? Do they teach it in a progression? And I think these are fair questions to ask, you know, if you have concerns about that. And then, you know, again, reiterate those things. Hey, what did coach tell you about tackling? Okay, can you explain that to me, right? And if you observe some technique, educate yourself about it, right? There are plenty of YouTube videos where you can go in And Dartmouth actually has a really good one where you can learn about proper tackling technique to keep it safe. But again, I can't assure anybody 100% of anything, right? So that's why I don't try to steer kids or families one way or the other.
Now, how did you get into the passion of coaching?
I have to give some love to Coach Lindsey, and he is a Denver legend. I played with the Lindsey family at Prince Hall, City Park, 80s and 90s, so I'm familiar with his sons. But in 2007, Coach Lindsey got the head coaching job at Denver South. And honestly, he gave me my first shot. Now, let me be honest with you. I was in over my head a little bit when I compare the coach that I am now to the coach that I was then. At the same time, I was like 26 years old. So, you know, I could have a little grace for myself, too.
Right.
But he gave me my first shot. Coached there for 2 years with him. And then it's kind of been on ever since. And I've found opportunities to grow, learn a lot. I've been all over the world because of football. And again, that's why I tell kids, like, the game been good to me, right? I wasn't a pro. I wasn't a star in college. I was a pretty good high school player. But even still, you know, it's given me a lot. In part, it's the reason why I'm sitting here talking to you, you know? So I can relate all those things back. And I also have to kind of credit, and unfortunately, we lost Coach Bennett. Golly, it might be 10, 11 years by now. But Coach Bennett, there was a time where it got really tough, where I didn't feel like, you know, you have self-doubt.
Right.
I didn't feel like I was worthy. I was having a little bit of imposter syndrome. And he encouraged me. Now, he was my position coach in high school, and he was hard. I mean, he was hard. But when I came to know him as a man, he's one of the more pivotal people in my life in terms of providing that encouragement in that time.
Have you lost any
players? Yeah, I have. I have. I think they would be okay with this. So this past summer and the previous 2 summers, I believe, we get together in the beginning of June and we celebrate Davari Armstrong. Davari Armstrong would have been 21 years old this year. We lost him in July of 2020, right during COVID. Just, you know, wrong place, wrong time scenario. Great kid. He always gave, made people around him better, and just a winner, a real winner. And so we've got together with his mom, Angel, and she throws an event for him every summer where and the proceeds will go to a scholarship fund. And so we've been happy to be a part of that and make sure that we help keep his legacy alive. And you know, so I don't think she would mind me mentioning that, but you know, that's a kid that we lost that was near and dear to us, and was not involved, but was just, again, you know, got caught in the crossfire situation. So yeah, I have lost some kids in that way. I've lost some kids to suicide. I've lost some kids to accidents. You know, at this point, I've coached thousands of kids.
Right.
You know, sometimes kids will come up to me like, "Hey, Coach Reese," I'll be like, "Hey," you know.
Right.
But it's difficult, you know, because there's 120 players on the team every year, right? So it's difficult to remember everybody, and it's impossible to have just a lasting impression on every single person, every single kid that you meet. And sometimes you have an impression that you don't even know that you had, and they'll come back and share that with you. So yeah, to answer your question, I have lost kids. It doesn't feel good. I try to have as few of those stories as possible. Sometimes you have to tell their stories so it can be a cautionary tale for the next one.
Right.
And so, but that's just the state of where we're at. And again, you know, as long as that's going on, I get up and go to work every day.
And just, I don't want to stay on that energy, but how do you bring the team through something like that, through a loss of a team member?
Now Davari was he participated in our club program. He played at Denver South High School, so I didn't coach him in the fall. But I did have a ton of kids on my team at the high school that I was coaching at that were friends with him. listen, you tell kids, it depends on the kid too. Whatever emotions that you're feeling right now, that's okay. Don't bottle it. When you're ready to talk, we can talk. But at some point, you're going to have to talk through it. And the one thing that, I try to impress upon kids is when anybody, honestly, when it's difficult for you, one thing that you can do for yourself is do something for somebody else and serve in that moment. I'll never forget, and I was at Valor Christian High School. This was 2014, and unfortunately, there was a kid there that they lost. This was during the season. And Coach Sherman, who I consider a friend and a mentor, he's the head coach at Orange Lutheran High School now in California. He stopped practice. It was like a Tuesday or something like that. This was in the middle of a season. We're a state championship contender. Stopped practice. He went to that family's house. He took the entire team, and we just went to work. We didn't ask. We just went to work. Bushes need cutting back. Lawn need mowing. Oh, there's some leaves underneath the bush. Just working, the whole team.
Wow.
Whole team. And because a lot of times what we'll do is we'll say, well, if you need anything, let me know.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And nobody's gonna call
right
you
there,
and
yeah.
let you know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so if there's an opportunity to take action in that, that's what that taught me. If there's an opportunity to take action, leap into it, right? And so, I'll never forget, I learned so much from that day. I'm really appreciative to Coach Sherman and everybody else that was on that staff, because that taught me how to deal with that scenario.
What advice could you give to young coaches coming up, or any coaches out there?
Okay. Young coaches coming up, take notes. Get you a notebook. Write things down. And I don't care if you write down what you would do if you were in charge, right? But take notes. Journal your experience. Take the good things from whoever's in charge. Talk about the bad things, but honestly have something that you can reflect on, right? The second thing is do as much as you can to educate yourself, whether it's going to clinics, whether it's sitting down with other coaches from other programs, but you have to continue to invest and reinvest and reinvent in yourself. And then the other one for me is a huge one. Bust your ass. Work your tail off. And you never know what good things will happen from that. And I'll tell the players too, you never regret doing your best. And that I'd say the last 3 opportunities that I got was because of the work that I did in my previous opportunities, right? Yeah. And people will vouch for me and say, hey, Kyle's going to come over there and work hard for you. He is. Be loyal to the head coach. Never let your head coach see you chilling. Have a plan for your practices. Execute. Ask questions. Make sure you have an understanding of exactly what you want in your offense, your defense, your special teams, on your basketball team. I don't care what it is. Make sure you have an understanding, you're able to execute it, and go to work. And shut your mouth sometimes. And that ain't just young coaches.
That's all.
I could keep going. I really could. But
that's all coaches.
It's all, it's all, because there's none of us know it all, and we all had to learn it from somebody else, right? And so just in terms of just understanding your role, executing it at a high level. I always tell our assistant coaches, you should be so immersed in your room that you have no idea what anybody else is doing, right? And then when it's time to come together, you obviously, you cross-talk and collaborate at those times, but immerse yourself in your room. If you're the defensive line coach, you're the head coach in the defensive line room, and take it as such. And it doesn't matter whether you're a young coach, whether you're an old coach, whether you're first year, whether you're 15 year. That's the approach to me.
Okay, thank you, Coach Kyle. If anybody wanted to come and be a part of Athletics and Beyond as far as training,
yeah,
where can they connect?
Sure. Athleticsandbeyond.org is our website. That's the best place to learn about what we do, to connect with us. There's a sign up for our newsletter there, or if you just want to contact us and learn more about what we do, our office is at 4990 Nome Street, Unit C. That's Denver, Colorado, 80239. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, all over the place. As Coach Prime says, we're not hard to find at all. And if you want to donate, because again, we're a nonprofit, all the proceeds go to the kids. At athleticsandbeyond.org is a place where you can do that as well. We also have a separate website that highlights our non-athlete or non-athletic parts of our organization. It's called aisandbs.org, and where, again, kids that aren't necessarily athletically inclined, there's still resources for them as well. It's come find us. We're at events all the time. Hopefully we'll find you, but I'm trying to get to the point where people stop telling us we had no idea you were there.
Right.
So,
that's been Coach Kyle. Y'all heard the information. I'm gonna make sure to just go ahead and post it down. Do you have a Instagram or anything that you would like to share?
Yeah, it's AAB Wellness Center is our Instagram. I'm at Coach Reese on Twitter. They still call it Twitter? Whatever.
X,
Yeah,
whatever it's called now.
Yeah, that's how you're going to find it. We're all over the place. So, yeah, just look up Athletics and Beyond, and you'll be able to find us. Can I take a second to thank you?
Yes.
I appreciate what you are trying to do in terms of raising awareness. And again, there's a lot of good going on that we have to continue to distribute to offset some of the things that are causing us some pain. So I'm appreciative of you. Thank you for having me, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for that. That's a set. Thank you. Until next time, we out.